Senator Francis Heyliger, you're recognized for your 3 minutes.
Good morning, people of the Virgin Islands. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, testifiers. I had the opportunity not only to just listen to the testimony this morning, but I had a chance to read through it. And I would also like to thank our legal counsel for the analysis of both of these CZM permits. I have a couple of questions, and it relates to certain things, especially when it comes to CZT 4419W. I am 100% happy that these moorings are going to be part of our community. I think they are going to be welcomed here in the territory, as we do need them. But I also need to make sure things are being done properly. And according to the analysis of our legal counsel, one of the things that they speak about is the violation of the code as it relates to putting off the administration of these moorings to a private company as opposed to the government doing so. Is this something that you guys checked with the law as opposed to turning this over in this permit to this private entity?
Who is that question posed to, please, Senator?
CCM Management.
Good day, Senator
Good day.
This is Marlon Hibbert. Thank you for your question. We examined the law. There is a precedent for that.
Okay.
We have a Reef Ecology, which was also a nonprofit. Ms. Oriel Blake mentioned it in her testimony. Mr. Steve Prosterman, who Reef Ecology was a 501c.
Could you hold my time? I can't hear him.
And these were commercial day moorings. So there is precedence for it. The issue with installing moorings on our own is related largely to the liability. And with Victor's opportunity and the public-private partnership, they have the opportunity to provide that level of assurance and maintenance and the manpower related to the moorings.
Well, another thing I want to ask, precedent is one thing in regards to somebody doing something before and getting away with it as opposed to it being legally done. So even if something was done prior and you're using that as precedent, I'm trying to understand currently in law, are we following what the law says as opposed to you saying, well, we did it before, so let's go ahead and do it again? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Senator.
I'm awaiting a response.
Yes, ma'am. Senator, Commissioner Oriol wanted to jump in to help me with that answer.
Thank you.
Please hold the senator's time. Is Commissioner Oriol on the line right now?
I thought
He joined.
We're not seeing him. Commissioner Oriol?
He's trying to jump in, but yes, ma'am. As it relates to your question, there are, in the law, someone can install a mooring. A private person can install a mooring once they have applied to the division of both the Division of Environmental Enforcement and the Division of Coastal Zone Management.
Okay, well, quick question. I want to read something quickly. According to our legal counsel, it stresses it violates the Mooring and Anchoring Vessels and Houseboats Act, Title 25, Section 405 Virgin Islands Code as it relates to parts provides. It says the commissioner shall, not may, shall administer and enforce all laws and regulatories relating to the moorings and anchoring of vessels and houseboats within the territorial waters of the Virgin Islands. But based on what you're presenting here to me today, you're turning quite a bit of this authority over to a private entity. So that is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, so now I understand your question. I don't think we're turning over authority. We still have regulatory authority over the moorings, as Ms. Blake mentioned in her testimony. The sites will be selected based upon consultation with DPNR. The maintenance reports will have to be turned in to DPNR, and there are set limits on the size of vessels where the moorings may be put. So I don't think we're turning over the moorings to BIPCA. What we are is a partnership in managing the moorings.
So you think it's a more public-private partnership?
It is a
Okay.
public-private
Well, my time
partnership,
is up,
Senator.
so I'm going to...
Do you have another question, Senator?
No, go ahead. I'll listen.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heyliger. Senator Francis Heyliger, you're recognized for your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, testifiers, people of the Virgin Islands. I quickly want to ask, based on this request for a state of emergency and the current trends that are happening with vaccination, et cetera, do you believe that this is your last state of emergency that is going to be requested?
No, Senator.
Can you tell me why?
One of the things that we're looking at, and we spoke about the fact that what does herd immunity actually means. And I have an expert here with me today, Dr. Esther Ellis, and I'll have her explain why not. Dr. Ellis?
Hi, so a couple of reasons. Sorry for the record, Dr. Esther Ellis, territorial epidemiologist. A couple of reasons for that, that we can predict how long we're going to need to stay in emergency.
Hold my time. I can't hear her.
Dr. Ellis, we're having a difficult time hearing you. Can you get closer to your device?
There seems to be an echo. It started towards the end of Commissioner Encarnacion's testimony.
We're hearing you better now. You may proceed.
Okay.
Okay, great. So there's a couple of reasons why we can't predict when we might be able to not be in a state of an emergency, but I think the greatest reason is these variants. The variants that we're seeing right now are much more contagious than previous strains of the virus, and sometimes even more virulent or more deadly. So we can't predict how the virus is going to mutate. We are attempting to vaccinate, as Commissioner Encarnacion said in her testimony, 50,000 people by July 1st. And herd immunity, the WHO recently said that if you could vaccinate 60% of your population, you may reach herd immunity. But
thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
A statement was just made that due to the more deadly variants, that is a justification for us to stay in a state of emergency. But there's declaration, I think, coming on the 8th, that some adjustments, for example, restaurants can open up to more 75% capacity. You're allowing things to be opening longer. So if you're adjusting some of the restrictions so that people could move around more freely, but then you're telling me you still need to be in a state of emergency because these variants are so deadly, isn't that a little bit contradictory?
Let me say, one of the things that we've always done is that we have been able to increase or expand freedom throughout the community, just so that we can actually balance finance with healthcare. However, healthcare always trumps. And so we've been able to be flexible. And if we need to tighten up a little bit more, we've done so, but we continue to balance. One of the things that we've done is contact tracing, quarantining, and ensuring that we have a safe environment. So that is the reason why. So we're not opening up 100%, but at the same time, guidance is really what's critical. So regulation is actually increases, and the demand for the VIPD-led task force is also going to increase.
Right, and our opening up is based on our current numbers. We don't have evidence that the variants are here yet. We have been sending samples off island to the Centers for Disease Control for sequencing.
So I know for a fact that some states have already come out of a state of emergency as they have been making adjustments across the board. What are the benefits of the Virgin Islands staying in a state of emergency as opposed to administering some of these restrictions for our safety as opposed to continuously being in a state of emergency?
One of the biggest is the fact that the Virgin Islands is actually an underserved population, meaning the ability to access healthcare providers is a little bit less than many of the states and or territories that are served under the nation. And so that's one of the reasons. Access to federal funds, definitely one of the other reasons. Look at what actually has been able to be done within several weeks. Our CBCs are stood up, and we are definitely charging in the right direction, and there is definitely a fight to attain as many people as possible be vaccinated.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your indulgence. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heyliger. Senator Francis Heyliger, you're recognized for your 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, people of the Virgin Islands. I stand in support of all the nominees in this block. I have taken the time out to do my due diligence and research, read the background information that was provided to us via rules, as well as pay attention to the testimony of the testifiers as they shared their information in regards to their capabilities to serve on these boards. So I do not have any objections, and I will look forward at the appropriate time in order to vote in the affirmative. I also would like to take this time out to extend condolences to my sisters and brothers on the island of St. Croix. We have dealt with quite a bit of unseen violence and unnecessary violence over the past few days. And to those families that have lost loved ones, I totally understand what you're going through, but understand that time will heal, and together as a community, we will grow stronger, better, and make sure that we do what we have to do in this institution to try to curb crime in our territory. Because what is happening here in the Virgin Islands should not be happening. We have to learn to love each other. We have to learn to look out for our neighbors. And at the end of the day, I'm going to always say this: if you see something, say something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heyliger. Senator Francis Heyliger, you're recognized for your 3 minutes.
Good afternoon once again, colleagues. As it relates to this block, bill number 34-0011, in regards to CZT 4419W, this particular permit request, as much as I would have loved that it was negotiated a little bit better, in my opinion, giving away potentially prime property for $1,000 a year, and in as much as you go through the various years and there's some sort of increase as to the tune of 1% gross at a later date, I think we could have done a little bit better. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, if the government had not thought it was important enough to try to do better negotiations, we cannot hold other nonprofit or even private entities for willing to assist. So when it comes to that bill, I will be voting in the affirmative when the time comes. As it relates to 34-0015, I have no issue with this bill, as this is a continuing permit of an existing dock that is privately used, so that is not an issue for me. As it relates to bill number 34-0010, an act directing the Commissioner and the Department of Planning with Natural Resources to impose a 5-year moratorium. This particular bill, I had an opportunity to hear a little bit about it. It's a kind of a amendment to a previous one that was done in the 33rd legislature. And after it was explained to me to close up some loopholes as it relates to the difference between licensing and DPNR being able to issue these permits and closing those loopholes, I do not have a problem with it. I think for an island this size, we have way too many gas stations, and hopefully this moratorium will give us a little bit of break and a little bit more, environmentally friendly location just to help us a little bit. So I have no problem with that bill. As it relates to 34-0018, State of emergency.
30 seconds.
I just hope at some point we return to some sense of normalcy and we are no longer in the need of having to be in a state of emergency. So I'm going to support this bill as is at this moment. As it relates to 340017, I had an opportunity to be a member of the committee where this particular bill was discussed, as the sponsors, the good senators from St. Croix did share this is necessary funding in order to purchase some property for the Juan Louis Hospital that is adjacent to the hospital in hopes of being able to build a new hospital for the territory, specifically on the island in St. Croix. I am 100% in support of that. So overall, when it comes to this block, it is getting my full support. Hopefully, at time when it's time to vote, I will vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heyliger.